Hello everybody, my name is Liam Walken, and today we're going to show you how to go about replacing a tub like this for a much more modern freestanding tub instead. Now before we get right into action, there are a few different things we have to consider beforehand. The first, of course, being layout. While you could do this with a pencil and some paper, to ensure your work is accurate, I always recommend using software like Rayon, who is the sponsor of today's video. Rayon is a new generation of architecture and interior design software. Its sleek user interface allows for even absolute beginners to start designing and configuring a layout. Rayon is a one-stop shop where you can draw, edit, stylize, and document all in one easy-to-use tool. You can create detailed, precise plans to help you configure your space before beginning the actual construction process. Rayon supports multiple file types such as PDFs, images, DWGs, and more. It's also browser-based, so you can work together with others online. It comes stock with thousands of blocks ready to drag and drop into your floor plan, just like I have done for this project. And the best part is that anyone can try Rayon with a free account. Simply click the link in the description below and begin working on your design today. Now, in terms of positioning, you can do something like this one here, which is nice because it will be accessible for any maintenance needs. However, it will only be usable facing one direction. This design is one that I personally like a lot. I really like the aesthetic of it, having that tub filler in the center of the tub. However, the downside to this position would be that if you ever needed to do any maintenance on the tub filler, it's a lot harder to get to. Something else you might consider when picking your position for the tub is clearance for a cleaning room. Now, if you leave about 8 inches or so, you'll have no troubles at all cleaning behind the tub there. Although a lot of our clients opt to have the tub closer to the wall, as realistically, you shouldn't have to be cleaning behind the tub all so often. And when you do, there are tools to clean those hard to reach places. But again, this is just something to consider. Now, I'm not going to be covering the demolition process too much in this video here, and instead I will refer you to some of our previous videos. We do have a full in-depth video on the entire demolition process for bathrooms, just like this one, which I will link below. Or alternatively, we have a number of time-lapse style videos with commentary going over various different bathroom renovations. So a jump in time to once we have sort of a blank canvas, if you will, and you can see we've just kind of marked out the rough tub location with some blue tape on the floor. That's just to help our clients visualize it. While 3D models are great and sketches are great, there is a difference I find to being and feeling the space in person as to in a picture or a model. And now we can begin our first step in the process, which is configuring the plumbing positioning. The first thing we'll be doing for this one here is just kind of getting the rough dimensions down on the floor, in this case 30 inches by 60 inches. Alternatively, you could create a template. So with this project here, what we did is we just took a piece of cardboard, put it on top of the tub, the widest point is going to be at the top, and then just with a Sharpie kind of outlined it. You can then go ahead with a sharp knife or some scissors, cut your template out. And with this tub, it was a center drain. So we're just going to go ahead and mark a hole right in the center of that tub. That's going to give us our drain location. And then we can use this template to transfer it over to the floor. I find this to be especially useful when placing the tub filler at an angle or having an off-center drain. I will also strongly recommend having both the tub filler and tub prior to starting this project. That way you can get the most accurate measurements and layout, especially when placing that tub filler positioning. We want to ensure that the tub filler is going to fit between the tub edge and the wall there. So what I like to do is I will physically hold the tub filler in my hand, kind of position it in line with where I'm planning on putting the tub. And this way I can ensure that will fit between the tub and the wall, and also that the tub filler will actually fill into the tub. We then want to think about our drain placement. Now this tub is a center drain, so you can see with that green dot there, that's where we need to get the rough in for our new drain. Now you can also see where the existing tub drain is, so obviously we need to change that. Now in this case, we're pretty fortunate as we can just stay in the same joist space here, and we'll just have to extend that pipe over. Now in your project, you may have to span multiple joist spaces, and that's fine, no worries, anything can be accomplished. In our project here, we were very lucky though, that we do have to only open up the subfloor in this one green section that we've outlined here. So I'm simply going to mark that on the floor space with what I need access to. I'm going to take my skill saw, set it at the depth of the subfloor, which is usually going to be 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to cut out a nice rectangle, cutting along top the middle of the two joists, and that's going to allow for the easiest repair once we've repositioned the drain. In our project here, this is 1.5 inch ABS. You may have PVC or you may have a different diameter pipe, so you're going to have to ensure that you're using the correct fittings and type of material. I'm going to take a fine tooth blade on the Sawzall here and just cut off the old P-trap. We're not going to reuse that. That thing's garbage. Then going to go ahead and take a coupling, and we're going to use the appropriate ABS cement to bond this. We want to make sure that any pipe we've cut, we're deburring and cleaning up the edge of that cut, and then we can go ahead and put the new fitting into place. We want to wipe away any excess ABS cement there, and then with the trap here, typically you would want to dry fit. In this case, I have so much play with that long length of pipe that I'm able to just glue the 90 into this P-trap and then size it accordingly. I'm taking my tape measure here and I'm going from the fitting side of that coupling over to the P-trap. I'm going to cut a length of pipe. I'm going to clean up the edges, and then I can go ahead and do a dry fit, ensure that it's exactly where I want it, and then I can glue the whole thing up. Something else we have to consider, of course, is slope. In order for your water to drain properly, we need the appropriate slope on this pipe. So in this case, I'm just going to take a cut piece of 2x4 here. I'm going to shim it up in place just because this is a very tight joist cavity to work in here. I can go ahead and toenail in some construction screws to get it to that right height. I can then kind of remove my temporary shims that I used and then take some all round, just simply fasten the pipe into position exactly where I want it. Once we have our drain configured, we can then think about the tub filler. So in this case, that will be that green dot at the top there. And obviously, we're going to need both a hot and cold water line ran to this. In this project, we will be converting the old copper lines from the shower to PEX, and then we can run new PEX lines over to the new location. Now, there are various tub fillers on the market. Some will have a roughen that goes underneath the floor, and some will just simply have you stubbing your water lines out of top of the floor to be hooked up later. This one here is by Moen, and this is one that gets roughed into the floor. You can see it gets bolted into the two joists. We mount the connection for the water lines to that. We can then hook up our PEX lines with the water off, and then we can carry on with the rest of the renovation. And this would be an example of what you might see with a tub filler that has you leaving the water lines above the subfloor. You'll read your instruction package. They'll tell you, okay, you need to leave a 2.5-inch hole in the floor and have your water lines poked out. And that's kind of it. And you'll do the rest of the renovation until you're ready to put in the actual tub filler, and those water lines will stay just like that. Now with our drain and location, we can repair the subfloor. So here we're just going to put a piece of blocking, some adhesive on it, and we're just going to use that to span those two joists. This way we can cut out a new piece of plywood to repair our subfloor with, and we can just use a ton of flooring screws to support it into the joist. It'd be a good idea at this time to also re-support the existing subfloor. Fasten that all down as well, as you can kind of see we're doing every 2 to 3 inches. We want to put a fastener, and then we're going to use a 5-inch hole saw to create a hole for our drain connection. And this one here, it was kind of right on a seam, so a little interesting method there, but here's a better example of what that would look like. You can see we just have the hole saw. You want to go at an angle. I'm going to strongly encourage 5-inch hole saw on plywood, running the drill in reverse. That's right, drill your hole out in reverse on a slow speed. Otherwise, you could really hurt your wrists. 5-inch hole saw on plywood, it loves to catch. And then we just carry on with the renovation. Now that our tub filler and our drain are roughed into the new appropriate locations, here we're putting down some new plywood to beef up our floors for our curbless shower that we're doing in this project. And on top of that, this is an uncoupling membrane, and it's gonna both allow for a nice substance to install a floor tile onto, as well as enable us to have heated floors. So we're gonna put these down before getting into the next step, which is the OS&B island tub drain. So this is a product, and it's gonna allow the drain connection for our freestanding tub. It comes with a 2-inch port. Our existing drain is 1.5 inches, so I'm just putting in a reducer here. We just put the ABS cement on that. We're gonna push that reducer in, and that way we now have an 1.5 inch connection. We can then fit the OS&B island tub drain into that 5-inch hole that we drilled, and then take a flashlight if you want and a tape measure and get the distance from that P-trap connection to our island tub drain connection. And then we can use that measurement to cut a length of pipe at the appropriate measurement. And we can do a little dry fit, ensure that it all fits properly. Assuming that you were able to measure and cut it correctly, we can then glue it up. We want to glue both the fitting side and the pipe side, push it into place, give it a little twist. You may want to hold it in as that cement kind of sets up, and we can do the same exact process here on the tub drain side. And once that's in properly, we just want to take some flooring screws and secure it into the subfloor using those little holes that are all the way around the drain here. And that's kind of it for quite some time in the renovation process. You're going to carry on with the project. When you're doing the floor, when you're tiling the floor, of course, you just want to cut the tile out around that tub filler and the drain. And other than that, you're just going to keep on going with the renovation until your time is kind of there and you're ready to finish everything. In terms of installing the tub filler versus tub, which comes first, it kind of just depends on the project and what you have access to. With this project here, you can see we have the tub in already, and we're going to put the tub filler in afterwards as it's so accessible. Now, this is the one we kind of talked about where we just leave those water lines above the floor here. So we're just going to cut off those caps. We're going to use a couple of PEX crimps to connect these male thread adapters, these 1/2-inch male thread adapters. That's kind of what the tub filler calls for. We're going to take the tub filler over and you'll see that it's got these steel braided hoses on it. And those are just they have gaskets in them. So we're going to take our channel locks, we're going to tighten them to those thread adapters that we put on the PEX. The hoses and the PEX all get pushed through that little hole. It's always a real pain to put these ones in. I greatly prefer tub fillers that have the rough in underneath the floor space, but a lot of times you'll encounter ones like these. You just got to make it work. It can be a little tricky sometimes getting everything through that little hole they give you. And then once you do manage that though, there's usually some set screws or some bolts that will be included that you'll use to fasten it to the floor. And you just want to check as you're doing this that it's level. Oftentimes they'll have a way to level it as you're tightening it. So you just want to ensure that you're doing that. Here's a different style of tub filler. It's one that has these 3 legs that kind of jut out the bottom. This might be the absolute worst tub filler to install. Anytime I get one of these from our clients, I know I'm in for it. With that being said, it's just the nature of the job. So just like with the last one, we're going to take those PEX lines there, change the ends from a cap to the thread adapter. Just like with the other one, it's going to have some hoses that we're going to connect. The only difference with this one is that we do now have to kind of mark the 3 holes off that leg there. And then once we have the markings, we can take an angle grinder with a 1/4-inch diamond tip bit. We can drill through that porcelain tile, and then we're going to be able to drive some bolts through the tile into the subfloor below it. And that's what's going to anchor this tub filler to the floor. If you have a tub filler similar to this one, I'm going to strongly recommend having 2 people. It makes it so much easier. I don't know what the manufacturers were thinking with a design like this, to be honest, but it is what it is. And here's a tub filler in which the rough-in was in the floor, and these are awesome. It has just kind of a push to connect fitting, so you'll kind of push it into the floor, line up your hot and cold lines appropriately, and you'll feel it click into place. And then there'll be some sort of bolts or set screws that you use to bolt it into that floor, into that rough-in there. And once again, you just want to make sure it's level. And ones like these are almost always better to install, in my opinion. So now we're going to show you the actual tub installation. So first things first, we're going to get it into position here. Here you can see we got some Kerdi board down. You could also use a towel or something soft. You just don't want to scratch this on the floor in any way. And the first thing we're going to do is adjust these feet. These feet are what the tub is going to actually sit on. There might be 4, there might be 6. Whatever it is, you're going to want to loosen those nuts that they come with. We're going to take a straight edge here, and we're just going to ensure that these feet, we actually want them just past the straight edge, as we do want the tub to be able to sit on these feet, not on the lip around the perimeter there. So we're going to go ahead and kind of extend those feet just a little bit past that straight edge, and then we can try to set it in place, and we're going to see if the tub sits flat or not. So you will need 2 people for this unless you have freakishly long arms. It's not that these tubs are heavy usually, it's just that they're very awkward in size. And we're just going to kind of position the tub into place. You can take a flashlight here and just check down that drain hole to ensure that your tub is where it wants to sit. So you should be able to see through that drain and into the drain connection down below to know that you're in the right position. Then we can kind of just lift the tub up if we need to and adjust those feet. You want to just kind of try rocking the tub back and forth. And obviously, if it feels uneven, you'll have to kind of either raise or lower the legs and just fine tune it until it feels like it's sitting really flat on that floor. We do want to just make sure that there's a very tiny gap between the perimeter and that floor. And we do want the tub to be level as well. Once we've fine-tuned it, we're happy with how that tub's sitting. We can now flip it back on its side, and we're just going to lock those nuts into place, and that's going to make sure those legs don't shift around at all. And then we can start to do the drain connection. So you want to check your tub here. Typically, they'll come from the factory with this piece already in. If not, you'll have to put it in. But there is sort of that brass nut and then a kind of silicone gasket or a rubbery gasket that they have. Oftentimes, the factory will have these silicone in place already. Ours wasn't, so you want to double check that thing and see if it's loose or not. So you can see here, I take that little rubber gasket and I'm going to fill it with some clear silicone. I'm then going to push it over that threaded portion of the drain. I'm just going to kind of compress it into place. And then I can take the brass nut here and lock it in. We want this to be very snug. Sebastian is just on the other side of this tub, holding it from the other end. And on the other end where that drain sits over the tub, you can also put a thin bead of silicone or plumber's putty on the underside of that to ensure it's nice and secure on that side as well. But you can see I'm just snugging this drain up here. And with that, we can then put on the tailpiece, and that's what's going to hook up to the floor. So these 3 pieces come with the OSB island tub drain. And while this step here isn't really necessary, it's just an extra precaution I like to take. Just a little bead of silicone around the top edge of this tailpiece here, because once the tub's in, we can't really see what's going on underneath. So I just like to play it safe. So I'm going to get just that little bead of silicone, and then I have this little red rubber washer. I'm going to push that into place. And then once again, extra safe here, guys. Little thin bead of silicone. Again, this isn't something OSB calls for with this kit. It's just something I like to do. So with that, we can then get on this brass nut here, and I can then just hold it against that bottom connection there, and we're just going to snug that up into position. This is also probably completely unnecessary, but we do just like to take a straight edge against the tub here just to check and see how far past that tailpiece will extend. So you can see here it kind of extended 5.5 inches, but we have 8 inches of depth for it to sit into the trap there, so we're good to go. And then this piece here, this is some silicone lubricant included with that tub kit as well. So we're just going to grease up our tailpiece, and I know some of you are going to be pros at this, so you should be good to go here. All right, with that being said, you can now put in your tub, and this is tricky, so pay attention. You just want to lift it. Maybe one of you can look underneath to make sure you're getting it in. That's it. It's in. It was that easy. I know, it's crazy, right? Again, just to show you again, maybe you see a little bit of that tailpiece there. We just drop it into place. Boom, tub is installed. All right, so that's pretty much it. Last step here is just going to be to silicone the bottom of the tub here, and that's what's going to hold it in place. This is just a clear silicone. Just going to go around the base of this tub here to make a nice tight connection. And you want to let this cure for at least 24 hours before touching the tub again. Obviously, before siliconing it, you want to make sure that that tub is square with the adjacent wall. And then you can apply your silicone bead. I like to spray it with some soapy water. I'll take a popsicle stick just to get rid of any excess. I like kind of how the popsicle stick is able to clear up, make it a nice pretty bead of silicone, if you will. Once I get the majority of the excess off with the popsicle stick, I'll take a finger, smooth it out even further. And then again, you just got to let it set up for that 24 hours and boom, you're ready to go. Enjoy your bath. And that's it for this one. If you learned something useful, if I could just ask you to hit that like button on your way out, it would be much appreciated. And if you want to see more of this type of content, go ahead and subscribe, and I got all sorts of stuff coming out soon. As for that, I hope you enjoyed and have a beautiful day.